Have you built the systems, written every one of them down like I did, and still found yourself in that office 12 hours a day, wondering why the business hasn't grown the way you wanted it to? I had 4 systems with my business: sourcing, due diligence, asset management, and portfolio management, all of it on paper. In the year I finally sat down and compared what that paper had built against the hours I had put in, the two didn't match. Because there was a 5th thing I had never thought to build: 4 systems and the question they couldn't answer. I'm Martin Sines, and I've spent the last 17 years managing real estate and mortgages throughout the United States, both on a self-funded basis and as a fund operator. Today, our team of 7 manages over 1,000 mortgages, most of which we own on our own. If you find this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below and let's get started. There's a system running at our company now that sees every conversation we have with every homeowner. It's been running for about 2 years, and I ran this business for 11 years. I'll get to the why. First, the 4 systems, because they're the reason any of this works, and every one of them exists because something went wrong first. 13 of those 17 years have been focused on the mortgage note business, and that business comes down to 4 jobs. Sourcing came out of the years when I couldn't find enough distressed mortgages to buy and had to focus on the deals that other parties gave up on. Whatever showed up that month is what I had to find the gold buried in deep on those mortgage notes. If no deals came my way for the month, so be it. The unpredictability was enough to drive a sane person crazy. Due diligence came out of a deal I got wrong. Ohio in 2013, my first year in this. I spent 10 days driving by houses and I bought a note I'd valued around $85,000 that turned out to be worth about $25,000 because I never looked 2 streets over at a block of distressed homes that changed the whole picture. I was doing due diligence back then as if I was a real estate investor, looking at the roof, looking at the windows, inspecting to see how the lawn was kept. What I eventually figured out is that you have to think more like a private investigator, and the thing you're actually investigating is the borrower and whether they can pay or not. And so that's when we started buying better paper. In this business, paper just means the loans themselves. So better paper means better loans, backed by people who can actually pay them. Asset management came out of the homeowner side. When a family is 4 months behind, there are 2 ways it goes. We can either foreclose or we can work out a payment plan they can actually make, and then it allows them to stay in their home and allows them to create a cash flow stream for our company. And that is really the mission of our company, is to keep homeowners in their homes with payments they can afford while making a profit for our company. But we can only get that second one if they keep answering the phone, which is why it's critical we treat all homeowners with kindness and transparency. Portfolio management came last, when there were more loans than I could hold in my head. 4 jobs, and I ran it all myself for years. So I wrote everything down I did on paper, built the checklist, mapped out the process, put it in a binder, and handed it to people I trusted. I thought that was the finish line. Document the thing, hand it off. The business runs without you standing in the middle of it, which is what everyone means when they tell you to systematize. And it worked. Those binders were good, and the people using them were better at the job than I ever was. Then I sat down at the end of the year and couldn't answer a basic question about my own company. Which of those 4 was carrying us? Which one was quietly costing us? I could tell you what those numbers were. What I couldn't tell you is where they came from. If we hit our numbers for the quarter, I couldn't tell you which of the 4 earned it. And if we had a bad quarter, I found out about it in the results, which is the most expensive place there is to find out about anything. Either way, I felt like I was flying blind to some degree. So I became the answer. I read the reports and pulled the files, sat in on the calls, checked everyone's work, because I was the only person in the building who could tell whether the work was any good. A system that produces work is only half a system. The other half is the thing that tells you whether the work was any good. And in my world, we call that a control. That was the 5th thing. I never built it, so for years I was it. And a business without controls is a business you can never leave. For much of my business life, control meant a person. That math changed about 2 years ago, and it changed in a direction I wasn't expecting. Why almost nobody builds one. A control is anything that tells you the truth about your own operation without you having to go looking for it. Could be a number on a page or a person whose only job is checking somebody else's work. Without one, you're walking through your own company holding a flashlight. You only see what the flashlight is hitting. Everything else is dark, and dark tells you nothing about whether it's fine. Now, Now, I did have control in two places. Our portfolio manager builds an AI-generated delinquency report every morning. That's one page showing every borrower who's behind and by how much. And we use a third-party licensed servicer, an outside company that processes the payments and keeps us square with the regulators. Both of those tell me what already happened. Everywhere else, the control was me, and that was a price problem. Until recently, a control meant another salary. In an operation like mine, it meant recording every call and then paying a person to sit and listen to them. We've recorded every call, every single one, for years, and we reviewed a handful a week. So the flashlight covered a sliver of the operation. So you're really sampling your business and hoping the sample is honest. Then the moment money gets tight, that's the first job to go. The work stays and the checking goes, because checking looks like overhead. I did that more than once, and I defended it at the time with a straight face. That's what I had wrong for the better part of a decade. I treated the four systems as the asset and the checking as the cost. So I protected the systems and economized on the checking, and every time I did it, I ended up right back in the middle of everything, reading reports at night, kind of wondering why I couldn't get out from underneath my own company. Cut the control and the work lands on your desk. The worst mistake is the one you never hear about. A system with nothing watching it doesn't tell you it's broken. It keeps running. It'll produce the wrong thing correctly on schedule for as long as you let it. Your people hit their numbers. Your reports look clean, but somewhere in there, something is bleeding. That Ohio note did eventually surface. 85,000 in my head, 25,000 in reality. I found out after the wire went out, which stung enough that I built a system around it. That's the good version. I've spent lots of years thinking about the ones that never stung, because nothing was there to tell me. There was one more control in my life, and it wasn't watching the business at all. I kept a living financial statement. Every income stream I have, active and passive, on one page, and I go through it every week. It costs me 20 minutes a week, and by my own definition, it barely counts as a control, since the one keeping it is me. But in over a decade, that page has never once flattered me. I can't talk myself into a good month on it, because the page doesn't care what kind of month I think I had. One page for my own money, and nothing like it for a company managing 1,000 mortgages. So the question I couldn't answer was what a control would cost if it didn't need a person sitting there. The first light. A couple of years ago, I brought on a young man named Cole. His title is AI and Systems Specialist, which at the time meant close to nothing, because we had no AI and our systems were binders. Cole has a rule I'd like to tell any owner watching this to steal. He is not allowed to automate anything until he's watched a human do it. Before he builds, he sits down with the person who owns the task and asks which part of their day they dread. The person doing the job knows where the waste is, and in most companies, nobody has ever asked them. The person he started with was Crystal. Crystal was our portfolio manager, and a real piece of her week, the piece she dreaded, was call review. She'd pull recorded calls between our asset managers and homeowners, listen to them, and wrote up what she heard. Was the tone right? Did they offer the modification we could actually do? The reworked payment I talked about earlier? Or did they read off a script and move on? I know what that call sounds like from the other side of it. Around 2005, when I was running a business, I started on credit cards and making payroll day of, countless times. The house I bought went underwater, and I fell behind on my own mortgage, and I tried to work it out. I sent the payments in monthly, and the servicer bounced them all back and told me they wanted the whole thing reinstated. They turned down my modifications for reasons I still can't explain to this day. My wife and I stopped paying for about 8 months while we fought them on it, and every time I called, I got someone new who'd never seen my file and had no interest in the fact that I was trying. We got the modification eventually. It came in a letter, and I kept that letter until the day that the loan was paid off. That whole experience never really left me. It's the reason we treat borrowers the way we do at our company, and I came to that through my faith as much as through the numbers. Anybody who tells you the family side and the money side are two different conversations hasn't done this work. And so when I tell you a call gets reviewed in this company, understand that's what we're protecting. One person listening carefully gets through a handful of those a week. An AI agent reviews every call now. Every call that comes through this company, it scores the call and hands back specific notes on what that agent needs to do better. And it does that while the conversation is still fresh. For years, I was pointing a flashlight at a handful of those calls a week. Now the light switch is on and I can see all of them. My asset managers were already good at those calls and the agent didn't teach them how to do it. What changed is that I got a full picture instead of a sample, because the call you need to hear is almost never in the sample. Our borrower resolutions went up about 30% as a result. A resolution is a family who is behind getting onto a payment they can keep and staying in their home. Those are our numbers from our office. I'm not promising you the same numbers, I'm promising you the logic, because the logic works. And then the part I didn't plan for. When call reviews stopped being Crystal's job, Crystal stayed and she got the week back. What she did with that week is started running this company. She runs the operating system of the whole company now. The weekly meetings, the scorecards, the quarterly goals, and she's catching a problem in week 2 instead of month 4. She was the same person she'd always been. Same judgment, same care for those families. The only thing that changed is what was sitting on her desk. I thought I was buying a way to review more calls. What I got back was a person. What 30 days told me, that was the control for one of my 4 systems. The next thing we did was to look at 4 jobs at once, and it cost almost nothing. We ran a tool called Desklog across the whole company for 30 days. I wanted to know where the hours were going. The second an owner hears time tracking, they picture catching people, and that was never it. And I said so out loud on day 1. The tracker had one job, showing us where the week actually went, and whatever it turned up was never going to land on anybody's record. A month later, that was still true. And the reason is practical. The thing that slows a company down worse than any bad process is people being afraid of being wrong. If that report had come back and somebody had gotten written up over it, I'd have learned one thing that month and nothing ever again, because everybody would have started managing what the tracker could see instead of doing their jobs. Here's what it found. Half of the week was going to work that appears on nobody's job description. Not slacking, the opposite. Handoffs, chasing, redoing the stuff between the boxes on the org chart. And it answered the question I sat down with at the year end, the one I couldn't answer. Which of the 4 was carrying us? Which one was quietly costing us? All 4 were doing both. Every one of those 4 systems had work in it that nobody had ever consciously added. Somebody covers a task once because it needs doing. Then they do it again the next month. A year later, it's a standing part of their week, and it appears nowhere in the binder, the org chart, or the job description. That's what's happening in all 4 systems at once. Systems clog up quietly long before they break. You can't find that by reading your own process documents, because the documents describe the system you designed. What you need is something that shows you the system you actually have. 2 years on, AI usage runs over 50% of our day here. That number and the 25% on the borrower resolutions both describe this company and this team. They are not a forecast for yours, and I'd be suspicious if anyone who handed you one as a guarantee. These tools shine light on the issues, but my team still made every decision and did every bit of the work. AI accelerates a disciplined operator, and it does not create the discipline. So if your systems aren't built, this will just help you run the wrong thing faster. The version you can build this week. You're probably not running a mortgage portfolio and you don't have a COL, so start smaller than either of those. Pick the one thing in your business you most hate to be wrong about. Then make it arrive on a set day every week without you going to get it. Your software can email it. Somebody on your team can walk it over. For me, the one thing I need to make sure I get right is my living financial statement for myself personally. I haven't skipped a week on it since I started it. If you've got that in you, good. I'd still build it so it comes to you automatically, because then it survives your worst week when you don't want to do anything but hide. For you, the one thing may be cash collected or how long a customer sits there waiting before somebody answers them. The one thing to keep in mind, if you have it set up to come to you, it will, whether or not you're ready to hear it. You'll know it inside a month whether you've been telling yourself the truth about it or not. I'm telling you, it will change how you run your week. It will change what you stop paying for, and it costs you nothing but the deciding. That's a control. You can have it by Friday. If you want to go further than that, I run a workshop for operators on exactly this, how we built these controls, what they cost, and everything I got wrong before they work. Link is below.